recommend going to your eye doctor. I would see if I can find the rainfall on this. Rainfall totals, there we go. And it'll take it a second to load, but you can see these areas in green are well over an inch. So this is one of the driest locations of the state, pushing along Highway 30. So this is some good rain. The system's a little too progressive to end a drought, but still nice rains along Highway 30, and then those strong winds pushing through Story and Polk County. Jason?
Yeah, right now we've actually got a live look up in Ames as this core of the stronger winds is working its way on through. So we'll look there, and you can see pretty rainy. We've seen the heavy rain, and you can see, can't really see much past that KC sign with the strong winds that we've got as well as the rain, really causing a little bit of limited visibility out there. Along with these storms, and keep in mind the picture that we're seeing right now isn't even in that main core of the winds. It is in some strong winds, probably 70 miles an hour or so. The main core would be just south of there, though, out near Madrid and eastward towards Huxley. So again, if you've got plans to be on the roads, you may want to give this a little bit of time to flush out, because you can see that rain just kind of whipping along there, especially higher profile vehicles. That would be a real threat there. As these are very strong winds. We've had some even reports of 80-plus miles per hour for these winds as the storms have continued to work their way to the east. So again, as Curtis mentioned, though, some pretty much needed rain out there. Can you say that again? Sorry. We have got Chris Gothner out there live in Ames right now. He's going to give you an update on the situation that he's seeing out there right now.
Yeah. Hi, Jason. Well, you can just see walls of water. It is very windy out here. I'm inside the car right now, and the car's been shaking with the wind. You can see here at Casey's, we're at Lincoln Way. You can see the Casey's power has been flickering on and off. Just did it right there as these storms flow through. Again, you're looking through a window right now, so it is kind of blurry, but I think you all can still get an idea of just how heavily this rain is coming down, and the winds are pushing it. I mean, it is just, it's coming right our direction, and you can see just heavy rain. Whoa, lightning there. Yeah, we just got a flash of lightning. Yeah, just a huge amount of rain coming. I'll just pan the camera around just to see, maybe you can see through the windshield a little better. You could kind of perhaps see the direction things are going in terms of rain, or the wind. It's coming out of the west right now. So we are looking at the Lincoln Way Casey's right now as we're posted up here, just bringing you some live video. Jason?
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for that. Stay safe out there. Right now you can see that line still just bowing out. So we're in the thick of it here in the metro, eastward towards Altoona as well, right on the edge. Colfax, you're going to be out of the gun for those strong winds very soon here in the next 10 minutes, as well as Prairie City, Maxwell on the edge too. So let me zoom out a little bit further here, and I'll put a fresh storm track up for you. Again, the severe thunderstorm warning that we have in effect right now for Polk County eastward is going to go through 11:30. So we've got around another 20 minutes for that severe thunderstorm warning. And again, the main threats that we've seen on these storms have been the wind. We haven't had many hail reports out of this. Not to say that it's not possible, but definitely the strongest threats and the biggest threats that we'll see will be the wind as these storms march their way to the east. So right now it looks like they're going to be crossing Highway 65 and some of the towns that are in the path, Mitchellville, 1 minute. Maxwell, you got 3 minutes. Nevada coming in at 3 minutes. Mingo looking at 6 minutes. Colfax, 7 minutes. Prairie City coming in at 9 minutes. And you start to get out towards Baxter, and you've got 15-plus minutes. So areas like Baxter, down near Rhodes and Monroe, if you've got some patio furniture, you got to move. I mean, I'll be the guy to tell you that, because this wind is going to be very strong. Again, we've had reports of tree limbs down, 2-foot diameter tree limbs. That's no joke. That's some pretty strong stuff. That's moving its way through. So continuing to monitor any damage that we've got. Looks like we've got some reports out near Boone. Several large tree limbs down, power out in Boone. Again, these are 70 to 80 mile-an-hour winds that we're talking about, so they've really got that potential to do quite a bit of damage. And again, on the west side of Boone, northwest side, power out as well, and even more trees down. So something we're going to have to continue to monitor even after these storms roll through is a bit of cleanup and the potential for that power being out, maybe even power lines down in spots. So you look off areas to the south, as Curtis had mentioned, these storms are a little bit more ragged in nature and not as strong, but still capable of producing winds of around 60 miles per hour. Looking a little bit further off to the north there, you can see we've got that extension, not quite to Fort Dodge, and the line building to the east of Fort Dodge, not quite towards Marshalltown or so. So again, we need the rain, but we don't necessarily need that wind. Let's hop over to severe threats. This is an algorithm that the software uses to pick up on what it thinks are the most dangerous threats for a certain location. So right now you can see northeast of Madrid as well as northwest of Huxley. It's picking up on some really strong winds and a whole lot of lightning out there. It thinks there's going to be a little bit of hail. I think, in fact, there's going to be more wind than hail. Let's hop back over to, what are we hearing here? Hearing the roof at Buccaneers is damaged. So, yeah, winds are very strong. That's a sad thing. It's a good hockey team. Boone down towards Madrid and Huxley, again, that main core of the stronger winds. We'll load up some speeds here for you. 78 miles an hour. Just to the west of Boone, we've got 56 miles an hour. So thankfully, we've seen these taper back just a little bit, but really still a main core of very strong and even damaging winds. We've got reports out in Murray of damage to a home foundation and several large tree limbs down as well. So again, lots of wind making its way on through. Curtis looks like he's got another update ready for you over there. What are you
Jason,
looking at?
I've been seeing what you're seeing with the wind, getting numerous reports out of the damaging wind in the Urbandale area. Jason, I've been watching this little notch right here headed towards Marshalltown. So folks in Marshalltown, prepare for some very strong winds pushing on through right along this little area. You see this all the way down, I'd say, to Milo. You catch western Jasper County and then eastern Story County, and then eventually in through the Marshalltown area. I just wanted to show that. I've been watching the progression on this area along this line kicking on through. So the distance on this, just wanted to show you, it's still got a ways to go, but from eastern Polk County sliding, it's probably about 31 miles from Montezuma. So if you're in the Montezuma area, moving at 55 miles an hour, so obviously you do the math. I can do it. It's a little over a half hour. So folks moving on through there. Watch how this spins. This is the area that's really causing the damage. You see probably from northern Polk County through Story County and now headed over into the Marshalltown area. Those are the areas we'd be watching for the strongest winds kicking on through. And then this will slide on down to the south. I just wanted to look at this area. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for Clark County as it pushes on through. Union County, you're in the clear. Matter of fact, Dallas County, you're in the clear. Boone County, you're in the clear. You're still seeing rain. Just wanted to mention locations that have had severe weather. So once this moves on through, the rain and the lightning, you should be okay to get out and check on trees, and the power crews should be able to come on out from Webster County too. This is the damaging winds, and we'll have areas just settling down in behind this, so you don't have to worry in those locations right now. The areas we're going to I'm going to zoom in down real close here and just show you. It's around Colo is the location we're watching. Nevada seeing some torrential rain and wind, but as it pushes on through the Colo State Center area, eventually kicking through as that moves on through. Jason, I'm sure you're seeing the same things I am, but I wanted to say from Colo down along Highway 65, that's the area where you're most likely to see the damaging winds even into western Jasper County.
Yep, and right now we've got a Colo traffic cam that we can pull up and take a look at that specific area. So I know as Curtis was talking about, that's one of the areas we're watching for some of the more severe storm development there. Nevada area, excuse me, is where we're looking at. And you can see out there waterlogged. It has been a windy one for them as well. You can even see maybe even a little bit of stuff on the road there from that. So again, a testament to just how strong these storms have been and will continue to be as we see these continue to shift their way eastward. So coming back to Super Doppler 8 here, you can see Huxley down towards Mitchellville. That's kind of the expanse of that main core. You can see very active as far as lightning is concerned. Just standing here in the studio, the amount of lightning strikes I've heard has been a little ridiculous. Upwards towards Ames and Story City, seeing a whole lot of rain. You get much north, though, of there, and especially upwards towards Webster City, and it's mainly just rain that we're talking about. So areas like Webster City, we'll hop over to Velocity here, but again, the strongest winds will be Highway 20 and southward out of this storm system. I'm going to continue to zoom a little bit further to the south, and you can see some of these stronger winds making their way through Mitchellville right now down towards Carlisle. We have got a report of tree damage in Urbandale as well at 75th and Diamond. So this storm's not really losing any luster as it's making its way through or losing any strength. We're continuing to see that core of strong winds, and even on the southern extent of this now it's getting on that eastern side of the radar, I'm really starting to pick up on some of those stronger winds embedded within this storm. So mainly 60 to 70 mile an hour winds on that southern edge. Indianola, you're included in that. Again, we have got those severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect, the one for Indianola eastward and southward till 11:30. And the one that includes the metro, again, strongest is going to be just to the east of the metro now, but that warning is going to be going through 11:30 a.m. So we're going to zoom back up towards the metro a little bit here. I'm going to clean off my radar for you. And you can see still strong winds south of Highway 30, east of 169. Let's hop over to radar. Really just a bow that we've got from Indianola all the way up east of 65 and southeast of Ames. So even though that's the leading edge of the storms, we're still seeing a lot of strong winds embedded as we get even further back towards that 169 area. So let's hop back over to velocities here. I want to get a storm track on this leading edge of very strong winds. You can see kind of these little embedded areas of orange. Those are localized peaks in those winds. So we could be talking about even stronger winds in that area as well to the northwest of Newton and east of the metro. And again, we talked a little bit about Mitchellville picking up on some of those strong winds as well. I want to track out that section especially. And moving it to the east again, we've talked about the movement on these things. Been around 55, 60 miles an hour or so. So areas like Baxter, you've got a minute. Monroe a minute. Newton just a couple minutes. Kellogg coming in at 11 minutes. Sully 13 minutes. Pella coming in at 16 minutes. Lineville coming in at 17 minutes. So again, likely going to continue to see, I know I've talked about this warning through 11:30. Likely we'll see this extended even further past, which will mean areas eventually like Williamsburg, Sigourney, and Marengo coming in on some of these stronger storms as well. And in fact, I think you can see, I think they may have just issued one of those. Yeah, there it is. So that warning going through 12 o'clock. So Grinnell, again, I know Curtis has talked a bit about Marshalltown, still continuing to see some very damaging winds in a really broad area of those Fort Dodge all the way down through Indianola. We've got just so much energy in the atmosphere for these storms to tap into. Once these move through, it's going to be cooler and drier, but for the time being, just a really potent setup that we've got making its way through. Hopping back over to radar here, I want to go statewide. What do you see in there, Curtis?
Northwestern Poweshiek County. Because of that little notch there. Take a look at that one close. Yeah, they're right there. See that northwest of Newton.
Yep. That might be why it's picking up on those high winds right there, too. Let's get a... Yeah, radar can be a little bit hot sometimes, but with the damage reports that we're hearing, I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing upwards of 80 to 90 miles an hour out of some of those storms. So again, Newton, that's going to be right headed towards the core of strong winds will be headed your direction. The area Curtis is talking about, south of Highway 30, let's zoom in a little bit further here and put this in motion, and we can see the general track of this thing. And you can see that area really headed due eastward, so right on that northern edge. So areas like Highway 65, just south of Highway 30, is where we're watching that area of possible rotation work its way on through. The main threat that we have seen, though, is the damaging winds, and we just continue to get a slew of reports in. One now from Altoona, coming in with branches down. I know Curtis has got quite a few more reports. They just continue to roll in. Curtis, what are you seeing?
Yeah, and I'm glad Jason pointed that out. What we look for in these lines of damaging winds is like an eddy, like you get in a river where the fast water moves out and then you get a little pocket of slow water. Every once in a while, you can get a brief spin up from that. We haven't seen any today, but we're also watching for that along with the threat for damaging winds, which has been the main threat, obviously, out there. And again, these are the storm reports coming in. You see up around Ames, sorry about doing it there double, 70-mile-per-hour wind reported up in the Ames area. I've been getting numerous reports in out of Urbandale, but these winds at around 11 up in Ames. And we're just trying to translate this down to the ground. Gilbert, 70-mile-per-hour wind. And then as you head to Ankeny, we had a report, the Mesonates station there. So an accurate report from a weather station, 69-mile-per-hour winds there. And then the big problem has been over towards Clive, 70 miles an hour. I do think, just looking at some of the damage in Urbandale, I would say it was over 70-mile-per-hour winds there. I'm getting some photos coming in. The airport, a wind gust. There you go. That's our official weather instrumentation, and that's at 75 miles an hour. So you could definitely say the wind potential today is anywhere from 70 to 80 miles out and about. You could see the line of damaging winds that started over in western Nebraska as this storm has maintained itself, or eastern Nebraska moved across western Iowa and has had a pretty big impact across the state. Obviously, the beneficial rains with this, but unfortunately, the powerful winds. And you could just see how this churning. And sometimes you look in the back of this and where you see these little holes of lower reflectivity, that's air going into the storm and pushing the air out. And that'll be an area we watch for stronger winds. You see, you don't see that as much down south. Now, these are still severe storms, and you're probably going to see winds maybe pushing 60. But the stronger winds will be where you have this little notch coming in the back and pushing this out, and then you get those little eddies along the edge, and that's what I've been watching for, but we haven't seen any of those. But again, damaging winds right now pushing through Jasper County, eventually and in Poweshiek County, and then sliding to the north. I just want to zoom in on this area just once more, and then coming into Marshalltown. But the strongest winds would be from south of Newton and in the Marshalltown area, and then tremendous rains as you head to the north from New Providence to Jewell and Story City. Stratford, Gowrie, you're now in the clear for severe weather, but you'll have some rain. Jason?
Yep, and I've got it zoomed in on the strong winds that Curtis has been talking about. Again, the winds responsible for all the damage that we have been seeing. I'm trying to keep an eye on this main core of them that's moving through Newton right now. Really some pretty strong stuff. You can see just little pockets of the even stronger winds made their way through Mitchellville. Mitchellville, there's some strong winds south of you, but you are still in the thick of that main core. So you can see the metro back here. I want to zoom in and take a couple readings from around the metro. We've got that main core of winds to the east of it, which I'll highlight as well, just going through Prairie City at this point. Got radar indicated winds upwards of 90 miles an hour. Colfax coming in around 72. Altoona, you have got winds of about 69, and downtown into the metro, we've got winds of upper 50s. So there's a lot of energy out there. Even as we get past the strongest core of winds, we're still talking winds that are capable of producing some damage out there as we see those into the upper 50s and even low 60s, low to mid 60s for miles per hour. So I'm going to continue to hop around just a little bit further here. 72 for Carlisle, Norwalk coming in the middle 50s, low 50s there as well. So bulk of the activity has continued to transition east of Interstate 35, but there's still quite a bit going on out there. You can see the leading edge of that line, and again, they have extended that severe thunderstorm warning. That's going to be going through noon as it careens its way in through the eastern portions of the state. So again, much needed rain moving through, but really decent chances as we continue to see this march to the east of damage incorporated with this storm. I want to zoom in a little bit further here now. And again, take a look at that. That can mean chances for rotation along that line and embedded in that line. So again, not something that we're seeing at this point, but it's something we're going to have to continue to keep an eye on. So Shear Tracker, again, picks up on those strong winds, and we're continuing to see on the leading edge of the line even just little bits of rotation. So Nice not to see a stronger return on this as far as rotation is concerned, but again, knowing what we know with the damaging winds that have moved their way through, we're continuing to see the potential there for damage, even if it's nothing that's tornadic at this point. We've got public reports of mailboxes blown down on the west side of Ankeny, along with trees and branches of unmeasured sizes. So everybody really throughout central Iowa getting in on the action here with some of these stronger winds. I'm going to throw a storm track up here then, and then I'll head over to you, Curtis. Looks like you've got something pulled up there you're looking at. Kellogg, 5 minutes. Sully, 6 minutes. Pella coming in at 8 minutes. Grinnell, 16 minutes. New Sharon coming in at 17 minutes. Curtis, it looks like you've got some rainfall.
Yeah, what has been the speed on this? About 50, 55 miles an hour?
50, 55.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So it's moving very quickly, but the rain is so torrential, even moving that quickly. We're getting some good reports of rain. This is northwest of Carroll, about 1.5 inches. Let's go just to northwest of Grand Junction, 2.7. This is the driest location in the entire state. I mean, there's a drought out there, very pronounced, but look at this. This is southeastern Webster County, getting a report there of 2.7 inches of rain. So that is some good news. It's some good rains out there. I thought I'd point out the positive with this system. Obviously, the negative with the system has been the damaging winds. As you can see, numerous reports across the metro. These areas in blue are the wind gusts. These areas where you see the tree down are areas that had reports of the damage, and we could see reports coming in out of Boone and Luther of tree and power line damage here in the metro. It kind of caught the downtown area, and especially one report there, but Urbandale. That's where most of the reports are coming in. I'll highlight those for you. Buccaneer Arena, big problems there. Much of the roof has been taken off is what we're seeing. I haven't got all the pictures in, but that's the report there coming in of the report over there at Buccaneer Arena of the tree damage. And then also some reports coming in, 128th and Douglas, fence blown down with high winds. That's out of the city of Clive. It gets confusing as you get the far northwest side. All those cities kind of interjoin. You can go across 4 cities in about 10 minutes. But that's where the big damage has been. And then it was out to the west, reports starting. And we're starting to see the reports are delaying just a bit coming in. These run a little bit behind, but I just want to look at one more report for you coming in out just around branches down in the Altoona area. But it does look definitely like there were more damage reports coming in out of the northwest side of the metro. As me and Jason have been watching this today, Jason, it's been anywhere from around, I'd say, just looking at the damage, 70 to maybe 80 mile per hour winds. We'll see more as we get a better look at things, but all this coming in along this, and you can see here's a severe thunderstorm warning southeast, but the strongest part of this storm is right in this core from just around Knoxville and then Newton, and then areas just to the north of that in Marshall County. We'll be watching Marshall County very closely as it pushes on through. And again, if you have a municipality, sometimes the protocol is if winds are expected over 70 miles an hour, they will set off the tornado sirens. I live out on the west side of town, and that's what they do. So it doesn't always mean a tornado. If they think winds will exceed 70 miles an hour, many locations will hit the tornado siren. So if you're hearing that in your location, that's why. Heavy rain, this is some really good rain. I know there's wind and hail and a little bit of hail maybe east of Zering, but this is very beneficial rain from Grundy Center, Eldora, in through the Maxwell area. So that's the good news with this. The problem is the strong winds that are pushing through Marshall County and Baxter right now. Jason?
Yep, I'm highlighting right now the severe thunderstorm warning that we've got that was issued that Curtis mentioned to the south, headed towards Centerville and upwards towards Ottumwa. So we do have that main core of winds that's making its way east of the metro, but again, very strong winds stretching all the way down south of the Missouri state line. So a pretty expansive system and a really large area of strong winds. So let's continue to track these out. Again, as Curtis had mentioned earlier, anywhere from 50, 55 miles an hour has been the general speed of this thing. Sheridan, you've got roughly 2 minutes. Harvey at 7 minutes. Russell coming in at 8 minutes. Allerton just updated 9 minutes. And areas like Corridon coming in at 10 minutes and Bussey coming in at 12 minutes. So you can really see, though, those that core of strong winds just to the east of the radar, and still continuing to see strong winds even north of there upwards towards Ames and into Marshalltown. So it looks like they have even extended that severe thunderstorm watch east of the area that they had it highlighted before, as this line continues to churn. I mean, it really hasn't been weakening all that much as it's made its way through. Still continuing to watch that area that's kind of bulging out a little bit, bowing out a little bit, as Curtis had mentioned. That is very indicative of some of the stronger and damaging winds that we've been seeing out there. So I want to continue to highlight some of the wind speeds that we're seeing on the map here. Grinnell, I'd be in a safe spot if you can be, because you've got the strongest of the core right now just to the west of you. So radar indications, again, can be a few miles per hour high, but we're at 85 miles an hour right now.
We had a report out of Colfax of 80, so...
There you go. That's very reasonable.
It's pushing there.
It's very reasonable. Pella, you're right on the edge of this too, so I'd be in a safe spot. Knoxville on the edge of this, Oskaloosa, all those areas, you've got around just a few minutes before that main core of the strongest winds is going to be making its way through your neck of the woods. So hopping back over to radar here, we'll zoom out just a little bit to see the scope of the storm, and you can see more showers and thunderstorms kind of firing on a line eastward towards Dubuque. Those non-severe at this point, main storms that we continue to watch are central, southern, and going to eventually progression into the southeastern portion of the state. And we look off to the northwest areas like Fort Dodge, Algona, and Spencer. You get the much-needed rain without the severe threat. You've got a pretty good batch of rain that's making its way through that. Eventually, we'll be transitioning eastward over 35 as well. Continuing to get reports in here, we've got a report 85-mile-an-hour wind gusts Urbandale. That was at 11 a.m. From a personal weather station. So, yeah, all signs are indicating towards some of these radar readings that we have been showing you as right on the money here. So, continuing to zoom in on this bulge. Again, we've got Grinnell, you're right under the gun here. Let's take a look at velocities. I want to keep a close eye on this. Again, that would be the area where we would have any potential for any kind of rotation. But look at the winds through Newton right now. Again, Pella right on the edge. And if you're west of Pella, you've got another core of those strong winds. Areas like Mitchellville down through Carlisle, again, we've talked about it. Even after that main line passes through, you're still seeing some strong and potentially damaging winds. So I'm going to, again, highlight some of what we're looking at here and eventually put these things in motion. But even just east of the metro, we have got winds that are still in severe category. 64 miles an hour out near Carlisle, coming in at 51. Knoxville, you have got winds of 66 miles an hour. Pella, right on the edge of winds, sitting around 70 miles an hour. So in the next couple minutes, if not right now, you are going to be seeing those strong and even damaging winds work their way through your neck of the woods, even upwards towards Huxley and Madrid and Boone, continuing to see some pretty strong winds out there. Curtis, looks like you've got some severe thunderstorm warnings pulled up over there. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I just wanted to make it simple for folks if they're just joining us. This is the severe thunderstorm warnings, and you can see they extend all the way from the north. Let's look at one warned area. This is until noon. The area over in Poweshiek County, that is in effect until noon. I'm sure these will be extended, but you can see how extensive this is from the north to the south. Now, looking at these locations to the north, I would say I was looking at some other things when Jason was on the air. This is probably 60-mile-per-hour range right here far north. Then you get central, and I would say these winds along I-80, you probably have the potential for 80-mile-per-hour winds. And then as you head south, and now this is just general, obviously things can change. This area that extends down into northern Missouri, the winds in here look around 60, 65 right now. That can change. That's why there's warnings out there, but it does look like along the I-80 corridor is the location of the strongest winds pushing on through. But this little tail right here, these are probably pushing out 60, 65. And then you get right here along I-80, now almost at the Jasper-Poweshiek County line. That's probably pushing 80 miles an hour. And then to the north, you got some winds up there probably pushing over 60 miles an hour. That's what I've been seeing as I've been looking at this pretty closely. Jason's been on the air, and I get to look at some of the other things in the background and spend a little more time with them. Conrad and then Marshalltown, the winds are really blowing in there. I'm just going to look at something quick. We have not had any reports of hail in this, and I'm just going to see if there's anything. This is hail tracker, and maybe north of State Center, a little hail, and there's been maybe some smaller hail to the north. Just wanted to look at this. It hasn't been a great threat for hail, and what we've been seeing so far, it hasn't had many reports, but because you have all this wind, you know, if I have 80-mile-an-hour winds coming over my house, I'm not really worried about pea-size hail. So you can see these areas in red. This is winds moving away from the radar. Just think of like a tail light on a car when it's driving away. And the strong winds right now, Marshalltown, crossing the Poweshiek County, Newton, Jasper, Poweshiek County line down and through Knoxville. And still strong winds, as Jason mentioned, in behind in the metro. We'll look at the precipitation, and this is what we look for. Again, anytime you see a line like this, you see this little notch in the back, and that's where you have this almost little bow and arrow shape out in front of it. So this is where the strongest winds are feeding into the storm and then pushing out in front of that. And you don't see that everywhere along the line. So that's one of the little keys you look for. And then you have this spinning to the north. And there's strong winds down here. But boy, just the first thing you see when you pull this up is these winds pushing in behind the storm and thrusting them out over towards the Jasper-Poweshiek County line. And that's probably where the strongest winds are, and then extending up into Marshall County right now. Jason?
Yeah, and that area that you're talking about really is the core. You look just west of Grinnell, east of Newton, and you can see that area highlighted in orange right now. Again, winds over 80 miles an hour have been reported within that little core of strong winds. So I'm going to put that in motion so you guys can see the track of this. It's generally been south-southeast at around 55 miles an hour. So Grinnell, be prepared for some damaging winds making their way through right now. This is going to continue at least for a little bit to ride along I-80. So we'll eventually see this work its way across Highway 63. But you look to the south, and Pella, you have got that core of winds. We talked about the stronger winds moving in. Plan on even stronger winds just in behind that. That'll be there in about 5 to 8 minutes or so as the storms continue to march to the east. Knoxville, again, you have got severe winds along with you as well. So I want to keep you guys updated with timing here, so I'm going to go through a couple lines of storm tracks here. First one I want to get to, though, is the storm that has been producing really the most damage and the most potential for damaging winds, and that's the storm just to the west of Grinnell. Again, we talked about that orange core of strong winds that we've got in between Grinnell and Newton. So putting a track on that line, again, just a little bit of a southeastern component. And Grinnell, you should be in that safe spot. You've got 4 minutes. It may not even be that long. New Sharon, 7 minutes. Malcolm at 12 minutes. Montezuma coming in at 12 minutes as well. Again, some of the highways you'll see this cross, Highway 63. And again, it's going to be riding right along Interstate 80. So if you got plans to hit the road, you may want to wait for a little while. As this is moving pretty quick. So even if you're just kind of driving along, it may catch up to you with it moving around 55 miles an hour. So again, we'll cruise a little bit off to the south here. I want to get timing information for areas like Oskaloosa and to the southeast of there. As Curtis had mentioned, once you get a little bit further to the south, winds aren't as strong, but still absolutely can be damaging. Harvey, you've got those damaging winds on top of you right now. Busse coming in at 6 minutes. New Sharon, 7 minutes. Beacon, 13 minutes. Oskaloosa coming in at 14 minutes. University Park coming in at 15 minutes. Had a report of a 71-mile-an-hour wind gust at the Knoxville Airport. So still continuing to see, you can see right on the edge of even the stronger winds is a 71-mile-an-hour wind gust. So again, strengthening the idea that Curtis had mentioned of areas like that in the 70s, and you go off to the north with potential for 70 to 80-mile-an-hour winds, if not even higher, for areas like Newton, eastward towards Grinnell. Metro looks like it's starting to work its way out of the strongest of the winds, but still continuing to keep an eye on that area up towards Marshalltown that we had talked about before for any sign of rotation. And maybe a little bit of broad rotation there. Something we'll have to keep an eye on over the next couple scans of radar, just to the northwest of Marshalltown there. Otherwise, very strong winds down towards Gilman as well as Grinnell. Let's hop back out statewide here for just a second and make sure we've got everything covered here. Again, we've got the rain to the north. So areas east of Carroll, between Carroll and Ames, if you're seeing showers and thunderstorms, that is low-end garden variety stuff compared to the storms that we've got right now that have, for the most part, crossed east of 35, and we're continuing to see that primary wind threat continue to work its way eastward as well along I-80, and eventually we'll continue to see these storms make their way eastward towards areas like Ottumwa and Oskaloosa. And you can see the broadened area for severe thunderstorm watch. Again, ours was until 2 p.m., and that's going to continue eastward as you head out towards Lake Michigan, out near Chicago, Kenosha, and Milwaukee as well. So, Curtis, I see that you are tracking some storms as well over there. What are you looking at?
Well, Jason, that is a kind of a tell that they have a severe thunderstorm watch going into Illinois and Wisconsin. It's the Storm Prediction Center's way of saying to everybody, this is not going to weaken. This is going to maintain its strength as it moves to the east. And Jason mentioned ours is in effect until 2, but the fact that it's all the way to the east, and obviously the time of day is working to the advantage of the thunderstorms. So this is the area I'd be most concerned about. I know Jason was talking about it too, but it really does look like right along Interstate 80 as you're in Poweshiek County. I would say from Grinnell south, probably the winds right now blowing through Sully, headed over towards Montezuma. Eventually, anybody along Highway 63, you probably will see winds near 80 miles an hour. So that is the area that is really obvious as I look at this on radar. And as I mentioned before, these are reflectivities. It's just a way of looking at the raindrops and the intensity. And anytime you see a drop in those reflectivities in the back of a storm like this, it shows that it's really driving the air out. So this is the area that you're really going to watch as a meteorologist, pushing this out into Poweshiek County and then extending into Marshall County and now catching northwestern Mahaska County. But that's really the area you're going to focus on if you're watching these storms. And this continues to churn to the north. I'll put it into motion, and you can kind of see, I see what they did there. They put a new severe thunderstorm warning up into the north because of this over just around the Iowa Falls area. This is really blowing through here, spinning up and kicking up some winds, New Providence and Grundy Center. Tremendous amount of rain. Such good news with the rain, but unfortunately today with the rain comes the wind. If you're just joining us right now and you've been watching today, I just want to show you, this is the good news with the storm, is these areas in green are 1 to 2 inches of rain in the driest part of the state. So it won't end the drought, but it sure does help. Very thirsty soybeans out there. They've been waiting on it in the corn, but the soybeans have been really waiting on it in spots. And then you could see some rain that happened this morning to the north. And then the other thing we've been watching today is the reports coming in from the damage reports, and you can see they're extensive. These are all wind reports in blue, and then where you see the little icon, it looks like tree damage. And watch what happens when I zoom in on the metro here. You can see that it's just a tremendous amount of reports coming in. If you're out and about, it's been Urbandale, it's been Windsor Heights, tree damage reports just about everywhere. We had some reports of power lines down. This is just a report coming in near Saylorville. 12 to 8 inch trees, those are some big trees. I have a report of a apple and pear crop that was had some pretty big damage on the north side of town. So there's a lot of reports coming in of these damage, especially over in the Urbandale area. This was widespread, I'd say 70 to 80 mile per hour winds. I think the winds in Grimes, based on what I was seeing, I'll just grab one of these for you. So see here, look at this. This is coming in from a weather station at somebody's house, 85 mile per hour wind on the northwest side of town. Tremendous amount of potential there, and I haven't seen it weaken. So I still think we have the ability, sorry I zoomed way in there, for those strong winds in Poweshiek County. And then it looks like south of Iowa Falls, some nice heavy rains and some powerful winds moving in. And I've been watching this down to the south, moving into Mahaska County, and I think the winds down there maybe 60, but on the far northwestern edge of this, yeah, maybe a little stronger. I was wrong about that Mahaska County. Mahaska County, winds probably pushing 70, 75. As you head south along this edge, winds in here, Sheraton, and eventually Albia, maybe 60 to 65 estimate. But again, Oskaloosa, Sorry about that mistake. I'd say your winds probably will eventually push over 70 miles an hour, Jason.
Yeah, in line with some of the reports that you've been talking about, two other ones that I'm seeing just reported in. We have got a semi that was actually blown over at US 30 on Highway 17 interchange, and we have got another of a part of a roof that was blown off on a house in Slater. So again, a pretty expansive area of these strong and damaging winds marching their way through. You can see that core even continuing to grow a little bit to the south there. Primary part of it right now is over Grinnell, and winds there could easily be sitting around 80 miles an hour or so. You look to the south, Pella embedded in this as well, Knoxville, Oskaloosa coming in with those damaging winds. So I'm going to continue to highlight the speeds that we're seeing on radar because they've been pretty close to accurate there. Just north side of Grinnell coming in at 72. We've got 80 mile an hour winds right in downtown Grinnell. And you go to the south by Pella. Be prepared for some strong winds, 86 mile an hour core of winds just to the west of you. I know you're in the thick of it right now, but it looks like even stronger winds may just be to your west. And we had that recorded wind of 71 miles an hour in Knoxville. That was about 20 minutes ago, and they are still into the core of that wind. You can see areas in pink here, largely 65 to 70 miles an hour plus. And again, I can't emphasize that plus enough. Because the further north you get, again, the stronger the winds are. So the leading edge of these storms right now continues to march eastward. We've got those north of Highway 34 and right now west of 63 through southern portions of the state. The storms, as Curtis talked about, a lot of energy out in front of it. We're going to continue to see the temperatures rise. And it is humid out there through eastern portions of the state. So a lot of energy for these yet to tap into. If these made their way through in the middle of the day, these would be even worse than we're seeing right now. So yeah, looking off to the north there, again, we've got severe thunderstorm warnings in effect. I want to highlight just a couple of these. We've got one southwest of Waterloo. That severe thunderstorm warning goes through 12:45, and you get south of there, and they've got the entire line warned. So east of Marshalltown, you've got severe thunderstorm warning that goes until noon, and we get further south of there. And again, Oskaloosa southward, those go past noon as well. So let's put a track on that main core of winds again. Really can't emphasize enough the severity of these winds, as we've really had a whole line of reports of damage from these storms as they've made their way to the east. And you can see a fresh severe thunderstorm warning issued that now is going to include Iowa City. So let's get a line on this here for you guys. Let's do better than that. Marshalltown off to the south towards Grinnell and eventually towards Oskaloosa is the leading edge of that line. And let's drag that to the east at around 55 miles per hour. And you can see areas like Malcolm, you got 2 minutes. Montezuma coming in at 4 minutes. Tama coming in at 4 minutes. Brooklyn, 7 minutes. Chelsea, you have got 12 minutes. Deep River at 12 minutes. Whatcheer coming in at 14 minutes. And we will go to the north here, to the south here a little bit, excuse me. And you can see from Oskaloosa southward, that line again is strong. Maybe a little bit weaker, but we're still talking those winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. So areas like Beacon under the gun right now, and areas like Oskaloosa, you got a minute. University Park, 3 minutes. Albia, 8 minutes. Kirkville, 17 minutes. Blakesburg at 18 minutes. Curtis, pulling up some pictures over there.
Yeah, I'm trying my best, Jason. Over in the Grimes area, this is from a doorbell camera. Thank you, Amy, for sending this in. Thirsty corn, soybeans out there. This is the storm moving in, and then I think this is out of Glidden, so you can see the winds there with the rain. Amazing winds in Glidden, probably around 75 miles an hour when it pushed on through. So got those reports coming on in. Downtown, a lot of rain on the ground. Good news. I haven't checked the rain gauge here at the KCCI studios. Can't wait to do that. Emptied it just the other day, so hopefully that's filled up, and that's the good news with this, is a lot of rain is coming with this storm. And there's still non-severe storms. Fort Dodge, Mason City, it's drying out to the west, so if you want to inspect the damage out west of town, you should be A-OK. Just some rain. I haven't seen much lightning as you head west of Adair County. This is just general rains, Perry, Redfield, and then obviously the line Jason's talking about pushing on through these severe thunderstorm warnings all the way to Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, and I spin around into the Washington area. They're putting these way out in front of the storm because it is not going to weaken, and these winds of anywhere from 70 to 80, and we had one report out of a personal weather station of 85-mile-per-hour winds. The airport here in Des Moines, 75. That damage in Urbandale easily looks like 80-mile-per-hour winds. So that is the kind of potential. Those strong winds right now from southeastern Marshall County, Powashik County, in through the Mahaska County area. These look very strong. I'd say New Sharon, the core of this is pushing through in moments. Oskaloosa, get away from the windows. You don't want a tree getting knocked down and pushed into a window and you happen to be looking out. So that would be a safety move there. Montezuma, strong winds. I would say up around the Brooklyn area. Let's use the pointer for you here. You can see Brooklyn, this little notch right here. This is a pretty strong area of wind as you head to the east of Grinnell and then areas north. So that's something we're watching there. Right now I'm going to just look at one more thing for you here and take a look at this little notch that's pushing on through. And again, this is sliding right here from Grinnell towards Brooklyn, and the distance on that to Brooklyn is, well, probably 10 miles away. So Brooklyn, you got time, but the strongest winds are coming into the Brooklyn area here in moments, and we'll put that back into motion as it pushes on through. And again, this is just the timeline, and damaging wind threat continues. One more look at that rainfall. I just love this map. It's the best news that came with this after we deal with the tree damage and the power line damage and the roof damage over there at Buccaneer Arena. And I'm getting other reports in. Look at this rain. Northern Story County catching Greene County, Boone County, Greene County, back and through Carroll County. These areas in green are, this is a report out of, well, that's not, 2.3 inches east of Ames. So some good news with this, but unfortunately with the rain that came in today, the problem has been the wind. And look at all the wind damage reports and these strong winds, and they're continuing to march east. Jason?
Yeah, right now we have got KCCI's Todd Magel out at around 54th at Ingersoll. And Todd, from what I understand, you have got some tree damage going on out there.
Jason, I'm with photographer Glenn Bierman. We're at 54th and Ingersoll. There is tree damage on every street that we pass coming in from West Des Moines here in about the last half hour. I've never seen so many trees and leaves, and behind me is a mail truck. Take a look at this. Again, 54th and Ingersoll, a tree collapsed, snapped off here in the Waterbury area and fell onto the windshield of a U.S. Postal Service truck. You can see the windshield is smashed. Luckily, the driver was okay. We ran into him and he was being picked up, took the mail with him. But you can see that this street, 54th, just north of Ingersoll, is shut down because this giant oak tree snapped and fell onto the street. I'm not sure if you can see above there, but there is a power pole that snapped in half. You can see it's just hanging now, and the power lines are hanging over the street. You can see the street light there. The power pole now, the top of it is perpendicular to the bottom of the pole. And if you go pan off to the left, you can see where this tree came from. It looks like about maybe a 18, 20-inch diameter, or rather circumference tree that snapped. And this is just one tree. There are thousands of trees that look just like this. In fact, there's one just above the hill here we can show you in a little bit. And leaves all over. We literally drove into this storm as it was coming in from West Des Moines shortly before 11 o'clock, dark black skies. The winds picked up. We were driving through branches and trees and everything that was basically blowing our way. So you just really need to be careful when you're driving out here, because we've run into branches, we've run into trash cans, we've run into a little bit of everything that is on the road here at this point. So huge amount of damage from trees and other debris.
That Todd is seeing out there right now, again, he's not in anything severe at this point, but we're continuing to see moisture feed in even on the back side of this. So good news again for some of the hardest drought-stricken areas is that we're continuing to see at least a little bit more rain as we head into the next few hours, even behind the main core of this system. But looking at all these blue dots, again, I'm not going to highlight them individually, but we have got an entire trail of damage reports behind this main core of storms that we have been following. And again, that main core right now continues to march its way eastward through Grinnell. You can see very strong winds out southeast of Marshalltown towards Grinnell and upwards towards Highway 63. So again, something we're going to have to continue to watch. Curtis has talked quite a bit about is any notches that are within this line, and we're kind of seeing a little bit of a bulge just to the south of Garwin. So how that can modify the wind field and potentially cause a little bit of a spin up, we'll see. But for the time being, something we're going to have to keep a closer eye on. Again, one of the products that we like to look at in those situations is shear. Shear means basically changing speed or direction of winds, which can lead to some potential tornadic activity. Right now, we've got a little bit of a bullseye of that to the southwest of Garwin. So again, something we are going to have to watch over the next 10 minutes or so here as we continue to keep an eye on the storms that have been marching their way to the east. But look at that core of winds east of La Grande, over Toledo, over Tama right now. Those are some very strong winds that we have got moving their way through the eastern portion of the state at this point. I want to highlight some of these for you guys. Some of them a lot stronger than others. Again, and you start to see the winds upwards of 115. May not be quite that strong, but it's really sampling the energy and the potential in the atmosphere. So the potential for damaging winds is there, continuing to move its way to the east here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit further. Again, really keeping an eye on that area right over Garwin right now. Let's put another track on this core of strong winds that we have been watching from Toledo down towards I-80 and eastward there. This is going to move pretty quick. Areas like Belle Plaine should already be in their safe space. Brooklyn, you've got 2 minutes. Chelsea coming in at 6 minutes. Belle Plaine, 12 minutes. Ladora coming in at 16 minutes as well. So that's just the main core of winds that we've been watching. But again, this is an expansive system that covers a good portion of the eastern half of the state right now. You can see even if you're not in that primary area of those very strong winds, that still is going to extend to the south there. So we have got areas south of Grinnell. Again, we've talked about Pella quite a few times. With strong winds going through there. Oskaloosa, you're going to start to see that core of winds making its way through your neck of the woods as well. So let's get another sampling of some of the winds off to the south here. We've had anywhere between 70, 75 mile an hour winds through central and eastern portions of the state. And you can see you get a little bit further to the south and they get just a tad weaker, but those are no winds to just slough off. 65, 70 mile an hour winds. That is some pretty strong stuff. So continuing to see that core march to the east. Curtis, what are you looking at over there?
Yeah, Jason, we've been watching this all day. This is that report out of Glidden. You can see the winds there. I got one coming in out of Grimes. We'll give it a second to show you the winds pushing on through where the damage was. Thanks for sending in these photos. I'm just starting to go through them. We have not been showing you too many crews from the field, and we got them all across central Iowa because this is an ongoing system, so we don't want to spend too much time talking about the damage that has happened when there's damage happening right now. So that's why we're not doing that. And the reason I also wanted to mention, just got a report in from a weather station in Albion in Marshall County, 99 mile per hour wind gusts. 99 mile per hour wind gusts coming in. So there's still that kind of potential. So widespread damage across the metro, but we want to continue to talk about the damage that's ongoing right now, and that would be from Tama County, Marshall County line, extending over towards Belle Plaine, Montezuma. Winds in here, obviously we've been talking 80 to 85, but then we get that report out of Marshall County, and it was probably one of those little eddies there where that wind just blows on out, and 99 mile per hour wind gusts. We'll have to see if there's any more, but again, feeding into the back of this storm is this rear inflow notch, and that just pushes the winds out in front of it. So anywhere from Oskaloosa, Montezuma areas to the north, this is where you're going to see the strongest winds pushing on through. New Sharon, Layton right now,
Zach, who do we
still
have
headed
out there?
towards Oskaloosa. We'll pause for you just a second. I want to just take a look at this. And again, all the strong winds crossing Highway 63. Bussy seeing some strong winds at this time. And then when you head to the south, I don't want to ignore this. It's just that the potential is not as great. There's strong winds in here and eventually going to head towards Ottumwa. But those winds are probably on the extreme southern edge, 60 to 65, and in the core here, 80 to 85, widespread, and obviously that report of winds of 90 miles an hour. And then where this is churning to the north, and this just kind of gives you also a look at the strength of this system. Anytime you see this look where it's just digging like this has no intention of weakening at all. Time of day is working in the thunderstorm's favor, and I do not expect this line to weaken. We'll probably show it tonight at 10 o'clock news, and I'll say, oh, look at this. This started in Nebraska, and we'll be talking about it somewhere over in Illinois, Indiana, and it won't have weakened yet. So this is just going to cause widespread damage, I-80 corridor, and I expect this to move into Illinois, and eventually it could hold together and maybe start to dig south and head towards southern Indiana. But again, widespread wind damage along this line. Things quieting down in the metro. There's still rain and breezy conditions, but the severe weather has cleared Polk County, Dallas County, Madison, Warren. Still some stray lightning strikes. Keep that in mind. Just light rain. And then it's starting to move out of most of Jasper County, but those strongest winds right now are in Tama County. Getting reports out of the Meskwaki settlement of trees down, street signs blown down. So big winds in Tama County and eventually big winds in parts of the Oskaloosa area if this little tail moves on through. Jason?
Yeah, continuing to watch that area we've talked about, we've seen maybe a little bit of rotation embedded in one of these storms. You look just to the east of Garwin now, and you can kind of see those areas where you get the bright greens and the bright pinks next to each other. That's a general indication that we are seeing rotation in that storm, and we throw up shear track, which is again another rotational component that our software picks up on, and you can see that main area, Garwin eastward, does pick up on a little bit of that. So something we're going to have to continue to watch here and see over the next couple scans if that's something that's going to continue to develop. But I know we talked earlier about Buccaneer Arena sustaining some damage from that. From storms that move through, and right now, from what I gather, we've got a live picture of that damage. You can see, man, that is not a good situation. Roof torn off. We've got some of that laying on the road out there. Thankfully, storms are pretty much done for them, but that's pretty significant. And again, we've continued to see not necessarily damage to this scale across the metro, but definitely tree damage. We've had reports of a house that was roofed, a roof that was ripped off a house in Slater, and even upwards of US 30, we've had reports of numerous cars blown off the highway. So again, you start talking about cars blown off highways and roofs blown off. I mean, we're talking winds, as Curtis had even mentioned, upwards of 85 miles an hour, and in some cases, localized amounts even higher than that. Thankfully, just a little bit of light rain continuing to fall there for them. But again, that main threat that we're continuing to track is continuing to move east of the metro. So that's what we're looking at right now out there. And again, you can see that little bulge. I don't mean to keep harping on it, but again, it's one of those areas that you really got to keep an eye on in situations like this. It seems like so many of our tornadoes in Iowa come with just little embedded areas of rotation within lines. So you look at the leading edge of this storm, though, continuing to march its way east of Grinnell. Curtis talked about the lightning threat, and again, yeah, it's well east of the metro now. You can see really embedded in a lot of these storms, very active lightning. But once you get much further west of that line of storms, you can see the lightning just lit up here with these little white bolts. Not a lot going on. We've got the rain, not as much lightning, maybe a little bit south of Indianola and over Knoxville. But bulk of the activity continues to march eastward, and we're continuing to see it along Highway 30 as well as Interstate 80. Yeah, still looking like we're picking up on at least a little bit of rotation east of 63 right now. That is going to be southwest of Vinton, north of Belle Plaine. A situation we're going to have to watch here as these can spin up pretty quick, and a lot of times they last maybe 4 or 5 minutes. Sometimes they can last longer, but a lot of times it's just a few scans on radar and it spits up maybe an EF0 or an EF1 tornado. But definite a little bit of rotation there up to the northwest of Belle Plaine, something that we're gonna keep an eye on. In fact, I'm gonna zoom back in and put a storm track on there for you guys to give you an idea of where that's going to be moving here. We've had general movement of these storms, and I'm going to throw up the motion here. Looks like it's taken almost due east now, maybe a little bit to the southeast. So let's throw up a little bit of a track here and push it eastward. And we're talking Elberon coming in at 3 minutes, Keystone coming in at 9 minutes, Van Horn coming in at 15 minutes. So again, a little bit of rotation, nothing that's confirmed at this point, but what you're definitely going to see, whether it's tornadic or not, is some substantial damaging winds. Belle Plaine, west towards Toledo. We've got those that are going to be making their way through Marengo as well as Williamsburg. Highway 30, again, traveling along there. Again, that little area of rotation that we're watching is just to the north of Highway 30. So I'll throw up one more storm track here, Curtis, and then I'll send her your way. But I just want to keep tracking out this main area of winds because it has been a prolific damage producer. Again, heading around east at around 55 miles an hour. Ladora coming in at 1 minute. Keystone 5 minutes. Marengo 8 minutes. Blairsburg 9 minutes. Van Horn, we've got you at around 11 minutes. Williamsburg 13 minutes. Newhall coming in at 18 minutes. Norway coming in at 18 minutes as well. Curtis, looks like you got your eye on the radar over there.
Jason, I'll tell you that Tama County, widespread damage coming in. I think the winds now in Tama County are probably pushing well over 90 miles an hour up in the Tama County area. Jason showed you that little eddy or vortice, and that's just strong winds pushing out, and the winds kind of slacking behind like you get in a river. It gives a little spin, but also even if you don't get a spin up, and we're probably not going to see that, that's where the wind damage is concentrated. So winds, I think, in Tama County probably pushed over 90 miles an hour and are ongoing just from northeast of Toledo, south of Traer. This area probably seeing winds 90 miles an hour, if not stronger. So please pay attention in that area in Tama County. And you can see all along this line these strong winds, big winds pushing into the Oskaloosa area right now. Not as strong as they are to the north, but everything's been intensifying. The time of day is in favor for this complex of thunderstorms because of the instability in the atmosphere. Things are heating up out there, so this is not going to weaken. And this is that little notch that's just driving. Think of winds coming into the storm and just driving out of it, out in front of it, and that's what's been happening. And the big winds have been Marshall County and Tama County, and reports in northern Poweshiek County and northern Jasper County. As the morning has turned to the afternoon, now we're getting reports in of winds over 90 miles an hour in Marshall and Tama County. So the winds in the metro, we'll have to see. Folks got their weather stations and are bringing the reports in. We've had numerous reports of winds over 85 miles an hour in the metro, and I would say eventually we're probably going to see somebody reporting wind gusts of probably near 90 miles an hour in the metro. This is out of Toledo, an official station there. I'm just looking at some of the ones. There's the one. Look at this, peak wind gusts. It's an official station, by the way, out at the Marshalltown Airport, 99 miles an hour. This isn't somebody estimating the wind speed. That's the wind that happened. We'll take you down south. Let's see, this is about, so even Cumming, which was not in the core of the strongest winds, hit 75 miles an hour. So as you move north, you had wind gusts over Ames area, 62. So you can see it's pretty widespread, this wind damage. And then we zoom in on the metro for you, and you can see, I'm just grabbing random ones here.
Curtis, look towards LeGrand. We just got a report in of 106.
Okay, so there you go. Thanks, buddy. I will go over that way. So that's over in the Tama County area, pushing on through there. And that was where that little vortice was, Jason, that we've been watching. And so that report hasn't come into the storm report page yet. But again, that's the area that has had this up in the LeGrand area. So Jason, my guess is that push through, that report is probably a few minutes old over in LeGrand at this time. Just
Yeah,
gonna zoom in for it.
11:52 is when
Yeah,
that came
okay. Because I know where that is. I've been to LeGrand numerous times. It's just west of Toledo right there. So we had the wind damage in Meskwaki Settlement, and here's LeGrand. LeGrand, you're still under the heavy rain and lightning, but the damaging winds have pushed on through LeGrand. Montour, you got the original Rubes down that way. So big problems in Tama County. As we mentioned, the winds started at 99 miles an hour in Marshalltown Airport, and as they moved into Tama County, the winds started to push over 100 miles an hour with that little area me and Jason were watching where that little core of wind was really crushing on out. So folks in Tama County, obviously big damage there. Jason?
Yeah, and Curtis has been talking a lot about around the Toledo area where those strong winds are moving through, and apparently we have a camera out there right now taking a look at the current situation. Again, that's where one of the cores of the strong winds have pushed through, and you can see not a very good situation out there right now. Very heavy rain, and we have got winds out there too. We've talked a lot about situations where cars have been driving along on the road and have been blown off. You get up towards that 90, 100 mile an hour mark, and that's absolutely possible. That's why we try to give you guys this information ahead of time to make sure that you're not going out on the roads in this. Curtis has talked an absolute ton about how you get, this Boeing line moving through, energy pushing in behind it, and really kind of reinforcing those strong winds. That's what we're seeing in Tama County right now and east of there, and even continuing to watch that primary area with a little bit of rotation that we have.
Can somebody sound the collision horn, please?
That's east of Taylor right now, and you head up
we're taking on water
to Van Horn. You can see up. We'll hop back over to our Super Doppler right here, and you can see that prime area of wind that we've got east of 63 and upwards of north of 30. Still a little bit messier, perhaps, as far as any rotational component with this, but still very strong winds that we're continuing to see work their way through. Again, with that primary core that we've got just to the south of there. So this is continuing just north of I-80. And that area highlighted in orange is one of those areas, again, where we've seen those winds 80 to 90 miles an hour. And again, north of there, we've seen winds in excess of 100 miles an hour. So this storm continuing to strengthen as it makes its way to the east. We look back at the metro again and largely have just kept with some showers. And there are a few thunderstorms developing. So not totally out of the woods for storms, but the strongest of what we're seeing is continuing to march its way to the east. So I want to keep the timing update on here for you guys to continue to let you know down to the minute and down to the road where and when this line is going to be working its way into your neck of the woods. So let's hop over to Velocity here, have a look at some of the speeds that we're seeing. Again, that kind of messier area of rotation to the north. Otherwise, that core of very strong winds just to the north of I-80. We'll track that eastward again at around 55 miles an hour. You can see areas like Keystone. You're under the gun for this right now, Marengo. You maybe have a minute out of this. And areas like Blairsburg, 3 minutes, Van Horn, 6 minutes, Norway coming in at 12 minutes, Newhall coming in at 13, and Oxford coming in at 17 minutes. And that's just going to be that main area where we're seeing the strongest winds. You go south of there, and we're still talking winds in excess of 70 miles an hour. That's going to go as far south as Ottumwa. So I'll track those out for you as well. Again, the main core is a little bit north of there, but we're still talking about the potential for damaging winds just to the south of there as well. And you can see that area highlighted in pink south of Grinnell. That's the main area that we're watching, but even out ahead of that, we're still seeing winds in the severe category. So again, areas like Blakesburg now, Sigourney now, we've got South English coming in at 1 minute, Hedrick coming in at 3 minutes, Ottumwa 10 minutes, Keota coming in right around 11 minutes, Agency 13, Wellman 14, Packwood coming in at 15, Richland coming in at 16 minutes. So I'm going to throw up the damage reports again just to show you the scope of this thing. It's crazy. Of course, had a lot of reports in the metro. There's more people there, but you get east of there and that line continues to track right along that area of strongest winds. You can see it just right behind it. So we're going to continue to see Likely tree damage out of this as it moves to the southeast. Probably more roof damage out of this. Probably more trees down on roadways. Potential for power outages as this core of strong winds continues to march its way through eastern portions of the state. Right now, that strongest area is just along Highway 30, again, south of I-80, west of 380, right along Highway 6. There's I-80, again, north of I-80, excuse me, and again, marching its way to the east. So pretty strong, pretty damaging winds we've continued to see. Curtis, you've got more going on over there. What
yeah,
are you looking at?
I've got so many photos coming in, folks. I'm trying to get to them. I picked the ones that show the damage. This is up in Minburn at the co-op, and you can see one of the bins collapsed up that way. And then I believe this is St. Anthony, or well, this is earlier in the Glidden area. I've been showing this one just because it shows you what you can expect if the storm hasn't arrived in your area yet. I just want to show you the downtown Skycam because I know folks are starting to get out and clean up in behind, but I wanted to show you there are still some stray lightning strikes even here in the metro. I didn't load it up exactly correctly, but there's been some lightning with this over towards Stewart and Waukee, so I know folks are out trying to clean up, trying to analyze the situation, but I just want to point out some of these little areas here around Indianola. This is producing some lightning also. So this here, lightning, there's lightning on the northeast side of town and some lightning west of Waukee. So I know you're interested in your tree damage, and there's rain out there and lightning, so just give it a bit more time. It's not severe, but obviously a lightning strike, even though that's not as widespread as they were earlier along this line, it is definitely something to be concerned about in those locations. Once again, it's the reports coming in now out of Tama County and Marshalltown area, Marshall Airport, that are the most tremendous. These reports anywhere from around Belle Plaine right now, what are we getting, 70 miles an hour. Toledo, this was the report out of Toledo. I don't think the one by LeGrand has loaded yet in the storm report system. Yeah, there you go. 106 miles an hour, LeGrand. That's just to the west of Tama, Toledo on Highway 30. Numerous reports. I had a report of a trio of cars knocked off Highway 30, and a couple of them flipped over from the wind gusts. So it really picked up as it headed over towards Marshall and Tama County, and those are the same winds kicking on out. Just sample one more. There we go. That's the LeGrand one, and then north of Marshalltown. This is the report out at the airport of 99 miles an hour. The only good news coming in out of this is the incredible rain we're receiving in spots. So needed rain up in Marshall, Tama County. And then look at this beautiful band of rain, northern Story County, and then back and through Greene and Carroll County. Any of these areas in Greene are probably pushing 2 inches of rain. But unfortunately, with the rain came all that wind out there, and we will be doing damage throughout the day because it was widespread damage west of the metro, starting at 70 to 80 miles an hour through the metro, probably at 80 to 85 miles an hour. And these are just estimates, folks. And then east and northeast of the metro, winds 90 to 100 miles an hour. Jason?
Yeah, continuing to watch these storms that we've got LaPorte City upwards towards Hudson. Again, this is one of the areas where we had talked about some potential just to the south of there for possibly even a little bit of rotation. So we are going to continue to monitor that as we head into really the next hour or so. But Curtis, I'm going to have to throw it back to you. It appears my button has stopped working.
Okay, buddy, I'm always ready.
There you go.
Always ready to go. You'll probably have to reload both things on the hand tracker. Okay. I didn't touch the mouse, Jason. It's not my fault. So we continue. I'll just look at the rainfall totals because this is the part I like. Look at that's 3 inches being reported up in northern Marshall County. There was an area that kind of churned along Highway 30, and the stronger winds were just south of that. And then I'll load the radar up for you here. And it does look like I just had another report coming in off of I-35 of 2 semis knocked off I-35 north of the metro earlier today. The strongest winds are pushing along this little core, as I've been talking about all day. It's a bad meteorological move putting your back to the camera, by the way. That's non-professional. But this inflow coming in here is the wind flowing into the storm and then pushing out almost this little arrowhead of wind damage. So that's why we're watching that area. Marshalltown, I have another report south of Marshalltown of 95-mile-per-hour wind gust. So from Marshall to Tama County, winds widespread 90 to 100 miles an hour, and it was probably that little area Jason was showing earlier. Metro, we still have some heavy rain. I want to show you there's still some heavy rain over towards Mitchellville. This is non-severe, but this area still has some lightning in it, folks. So don't go out and look at your damage just yet and stand around trees and power lines with that lightning out there. And the same scenario here in Marshalltown. You'll have rain in behind, but the strongest storms are east of Marshalltown, but there's still some fairly heavy rain. It'll be pushing on out, so give it about 20 minutes or so in Marshalltown to really look at things. I know it's non-severe, but just give it a little time. Tama County's still getting a whole lot of rain. Now, the biggest winds are east of Tama County at this time, and then we head down and seeing some beautiful rain over towards, this is non-severe, Indianola now, Greenfield and Creston area. So still some good rains coming on through. We'll look at the big picture for you. Rain up in Mason City, Fort Dodge, and then the damaging winds. I'm just going to zoom in on this and just look at where the core of this is and walk down this line with you here. So along Highway 218, the wind's kicking on through, and then the bigger winds. Let's go down south. Blairstown right now, Marengo, Ladora, seeing some heavy rain and wind. Probably some big winds in Williamsburg, North and South English, and Sigourney, Waucheer. Just going to head down Rose Hill. Hedrick, the wind's picking up in the rain over towards Eddyville and Cedar at this time, picking up those winds. But the system is slowly moving east and pushing on out, and some rain still in Warren County. Jason, if you got lightning loaded on is your machine working?
Yep.
If you got lightning loaded, show folks where there's some lightning in behind the severe storms after you check out that big wind.
Yeah, you can still see. I mean, this is what we've been tracking really all morning long, is that core strong winds, Belle Plaine, east towards Marengo, and the one that Curtis and I have both been focusing on, just to the north of Keystone. That little eddy that he mentioned earlier on has been responsible for some of the strongest winds that we've seen today, upwards of 106 miles per hour. So that prime area is something we're going to have to keep an eye on. I'll throw a track up here for you. You can also see the lightning that we've got backwards towards Marshalltown, still very active, but you get much west of Marshalltown, Newton, and Pella, and lightning strikes become much more hard to come by. You can see some just to the north of Knoxville and a little cluster near Norwalk. So we'll hop over to radar here and see what those are associated with. That storm Curtis talked about, Norwalk, south towards Indianola and upwards towards I-80 is the producer of that. Otherwise, we do have more lightning off to the west here. You go southwest of Winterset, west of Winterset, more showers, more wonderful showers making their way into the state there as we continue to see more moisture build in from the southwest. So again, the strongest winds that we've seen or are seeing currently are to the east, and I want to continue to put storm tracks up for you guys because this has been an absolute prolific producer of damage. We've talked about, Buccaneers Arena. We've had the roof ripped off that. Slater, we had part of a roof ripped off a house. Cars blown off the highway. We, in fact, got another report of another semi blown over on I-80 west of the Grinnell interchange. So very, very strong and impactful winds. And as these winds continue to ride along I-80, I wouldn't doubt that we get more of those reports of cars or semis being blown around down there a little bit. Newhall, 1 minute. Oxford coming in at 6 minutes. Atkins at 6 minutes as well. We have got Fairfax coming in 7 minutes. Swisher, 11 minutes. Shellsburg, 12. Tiffin, 12. Shreveville coming in at 13. And we've got North Liberty coming in at 15. So going a little bit further to the south, again, we've got severe thunderstorms extending all the way to the Missouri border, and I want to make sure that I get to all of you guys. You can see some of the strong winds that we have embedded within this east of Oskaloosa, continuing to see those winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. So let's put another track on this for you. To the east, we've got this moving at around 55 miles an hour. So Agency, 4 minutes. Keota, 7 minutes. Packwood coming in at 8 minutes. Wellman, 10 minutes. And we've got Libertyville coming in at 18 minutes. And zooming back to the north here again, see if there was that potential for something tornadic, but it's still there, so it still warrants our attention at least a little bit. And I'm going to put a separate storm track on that for you guys. Again, just to the south of Vinton is where we're seeing that. That's right on Highway 218, and that has been moving to the east again around 50, 55 miles an hour. So we've got areas like Atkins coming in at 6 minutes, Shellsburg 8 minutes, Pello coming in at 11 minutes, Hiawatha 16, Robbins 18, and Cedar Rapids coming in at 18 minutes as well. But nice to see that core of winds working its way east and hopefully soon out of the state. We've got still strong winds even behind this. So you look at areas like Grinnell and Marshalltown that are really on the back edge of the storms, and we are still talking winds of around 40 to 50 miles an hour. So even though they are beyond the severe limits, we're still talking about strong and potentially even impactful winds past the core of the storms that we're watching. I'll throw up a couple more readings here for you. Again, Toledo, right in the thick of the western edge of that, 55 miles an hour. Belle Plaine coming in at 82. As further east you get, really the better potential you've got there for those stronger winds, and even upwards towards Highway 30, 74 miles an hour near Vinton, coming in at around 21 miles per hour. So I'm going to hop it over statewide here, and we'll look as this line continues to make its way eastward towards Cedar Rapids. Thankfully, you can see the bright pinks that we've got on the line that's moving out. We're not seeing those returns with the storms that we've got that are firing up right now near the metro and to the southwest. So as Curtis had even mentioned earlier, we're seeing these storms fire up, bringing in that much needed rain, but we're not seeing anything severe, at least at this point. But if you're in areas like Norwalk down towards Indianola and even west of there along I-80 and you want to clean up, you're going to have to be where lightning strikes, because these storms continue to feed in, and putting them in motion here doesn't look like they're going anywhere. We may see these continue to build for a little bit longer here and bring in some of that much needed moderate rainfall as it moves its way to the east. So looking to the east, we have got, again, that bow continuing to work its way east of Grinnell and out towards Cedar Rapids. Curtis, looks like you've got more stuff going on.
Just been watching the storm damage reports come in. Again, we showed you this grain bin up in the Minburn area. Another report, I think this is out of Newton, a tree down. You could see a pretty large tree and broken off midway, which pretty much is normally indicative of higher winds. Sometimes we get trees down, trees that were just meant to go down anyways in lower wind events, but when you start snapping them off, that's a sign of bigger winds, and that's what we see here. So sometimes when they just fall out down by the roots, sometimes that was going to happen. But when you start seeing them sheared off like that, as you go around town with bigger branches sheared off, that's a big wind. Downtown Skycam, again, there's still some on and off lightning in the metro. I do have a concern of folks in the Marshall County area and Tama County area. Even though the biggest winds have moved on through, you might have some loose tree limbs out and about, so winds 40, 45 miles an hour might jar those and knock those down. So even though the biggest winds have moved on through, just give it a bit more time for the wind to settle down and the lightning to move out before you start bringing out the chainsaws and going to work, because you could still look up, you could still have a loose branch that hasn't been knocked down, and 40-mile-an-hour winds is still enough to jar that free. So just keep that in mind when you're going to go out and do clearing out. Obviously, we got some beneficial rains. Unfortunately, as the day goes along, I'm sure I'll get numerous pictures of corn flattened out there with these kind of winds, and that is some bad news there. So you can look out here. This is the area. We're watching this slowly push out of Poweshiek County, eastern Poweshiek County, seeing some strong winds at this time. I'll head down. The storm now pushing in through the Ottumwa area, Hedrick, Sigourney. You're all in a severe thunderstorm warning in those locations. And then we look to the metro, and again, just seeing some rain pushing on through southeast side of town. Indianola, some heavier rain north of Indianola, and then rain metro, rain Waukee. Again, all this non-severe. Our winds are settling down. I'm just concerned the folks going out and working on damage when you still have some lightning and wind, some rain down around Bedford and Red Oak. And if you're just joining us, the good news with this system is the rain. Unfortunately, it came with a lot of wind, but this area of green is 1 to 2 inches of rain, generally along Highway 30, and then some heavier rain northern Polk County that extended into Greene and Carroll County. And I'm just going to show up the damage reports if you're just catching us right now, and you can just, this pretty much tells the story of this. All these in blue are strong wind gusts. Any of the ones you see with the little green, those are storm reports with the damage. So Belle Plaine, as Jason mentioned, let's just hit up that part of the storm that's moving on through there. 90 miles an hour in southeastern Tama County. LeGrand 106. I think you get the story here. And then Marshalltown Airport, 99 mile per hour wind gusts. Metro will slide on over just a second. I just want to show you what the winds were here. They kind of picked up. I mean, we got widespread damage in the Metro, but they were stronger in Marshall. Let's see, this is some tree damage, I think, over Ankeny, Bricktown area. Roof, tree and branches down, undetermined size there. So widespread wind damage, as we mentioned, Marshall-Tama County. Widespread wind damage here in the Metro, especially in the urban Dale area. Jason's watching the core of these winds. I think eventually, Jason, all this is going to be moving on out, and we'll get to go out and clean up after this incredibly damaging wind event that moved through the Metro this morning and early afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. You can see, sorry, I'm watching the TV next to me, watching these storms evolve. But yeah, they've actually issued a severe thunderstorm warning just on the backside of these. We had talked about the winds on the backside of this. Even after the strongest of the winds moved through, we've had some pretty strong winds sticking around. So you can see it kind of delineated here just east of 30, southward towards I-80. That core of winds has continued to backbuild just a little bit, and that was something that the Weather Service was worried about. So something that I'm going to highlight here for you just for a second. You can see east of Grinnell, 67 mile an hour winds, northeast of Oskaloosa coming in at 59 miles per hour. And you can see that lightning trailing all the way back towards Marshalltown. So still a pretty active storm system if you're east of the Metro, east of 35, upwards towards Marshalltown, and even further up off to the northeast by 218 or so. But the core of the storm continues to work its way to the east. And again, even that area that we had talked about, even some potential rotation has started at least to weaken a little bit as far as rotation is concerned. But still, look at that core of winds over Marengo, southward towards Williamsburg. That's going to continue to churn its way across the state, as we've mentioned multiple times. We're early in the day here, and we still have we have hours of heating left. It's still abundant amounts of moisture through the eastern portion of the state. So all signs point to this system continuing to strengthen. You look at Marengo, 88 mile an hour winds is what the radar is indicating. And north of Williamsburg, we have got, well, 0 is kind of laughable, but we still have winds of around 70 miles an hour in that neck of the woods as well. So we'll continue to, of course, track this storm eastward as it moves to the east. But again, over the Metro right now, things have largely quieted down as far as severe weather is concerned. We do continue to see trailing moisture building, trailing showers and thunderstorms building. But as Curtis mentioned, damage has been done. There has been many reports across much of the state, really central and southern portions of the state, of damaging winds. And I mean, we talk a lot about tornado damage, but you get winds like this, and I mean, we're talking roofs off of houses, we're talking roofs off of arenas, we're talking cars blown off of the road. So still has the intensity that you need to do some of that damage. So you look there, again, 70 mile an hour wind gust plus out near Toledo. That's one of the areas we saw winds in far excess of that. So you look to the east, though, and we're continuing to see this system move eastward and still have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect through central portions of the state. Again, that will go through 2 p.m. But for the time being, anyway, even though we've got that active for the next, hour and a half or so, we don't have anything severe going on there. The main threat right now would be over Ottumwa, and of course on the back edge of that we talked about those strong winds that have built in We just got a report through the Metro right now. Mid-American has reported more than 50,000 people in the Metro alone are without power. So again, we saw video and pictures of the damage that's been done. Again, that is widespread across central portions of the state. And these storms continue to move to the east. So plan on more rain, and we'll see more moisture build. Again, what we're seeing right now, though, through the Metro into the southwest at least, is looking non-severe. Curtis, you've got some more pictures.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for something low, Jason, but that's okay. As you mentioned, this is coming in. I don't even know where this is located. It looks like it might be at a gas station, but you could see somebody probably was hanging out under the awning there, and the wind pushed the semi into one of these supports. So that's the kind of wind we had today. I'd like to get more information on that. Trees down, power lines down. This is a tree getting busted off over in the Newton area, and I've been talking about that. When you see these trees sheared like that, where they just get broke off at the strongest part of the tree, that's big wind. And we got branches down. I got numerous trees over 12 inches down, and those big winds. Downtown, still some rain falling. It's generally light here. It's heavier on the southeast side of town. Rain, Mason City, Fort Dodge, non-severe. Rain coming to an end. Audubon County west towards Missouri River there. Some rain down to the south. How about we just look at the areas and we take off everything and just make it real simple to just see what we're watching here for the severe thunderstorm warnings. Let's go all the way down and just see where the folks still are under these warnings. Also, by the way, I'm getting reports in out of State Center. Tremendous amount of damage there in Marshall County. So Rhinebeck Dike, you are still in a severe thunderstorm warning. I do believe the more powerful storms have pushed on through. You could see Traer down and through Tama, Toledo. Toledo's out of the severe thunderstorm warning. Montour out of the severe thunderstorm warning. LeGrand, where you had that over 100-mile-per-hour gust reported, not in a severe thunderstorm warning anymore. Hartwick, Brooklyn, still in a severe thunderstorm warning. I just want to see what the time is on that. In effect until 1 o'clock there. We're now at 12:38, so you'll slowly get taken out of that. And then as we go down south, reports coming in out of Deep River of some powerful winds. Barnes City still in a severe thunderstorm warning. Waucheer, Rose Hill, Fremont, and then as we head down into northern Missouri, Hedrick also in that severe thunderstorm warning. And let's see when that's in effect for the Hedrick area. That's in effect until 1 o'clock. And over in Rose Hill right now, east of Oskaloosa, also in effect until 1 o'clock. It just kind of gives you a look at where the severe storms are at this time. And it gives it a little simpler look. You can see the damage is moving east. Still some rain and wind in behind here in the metro with the widespread reports of damage, but some nice rains with this. But unfortunately, obviously, when you got winds 90, 100 miles an hour, you're going to have some crop damage out there. And then here's your reports again of all the wind damage. Anywhere from Cedar Rapids all the way to Lincoln, Nebraska, this started and will continue to march across Iowa and probably through Illinois with damage. It's not going to stop. It's the wrong time of day for this to stop. It's the wrong type of meteorological conditions for this to weaken. So this is going to be continuing. I'll just zoom in on the metro. I'm not going to highlight all these, but tree damage, Ankeny, north side of the metro, down towards Norwalk, Grimes, Urbandale. Tree damage as you head over towards parts of Dare County. So widespread winds, and obviously we've had reports over 100 miles an hour east of the metro. In the metro so far, Jason, who knows? I've had reports of 85, but I wouldn't be surprised when we look at the damage if it wasn't even more.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, with how widespread it is and what we're talking about as far as damage is concerned, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. And we're getting even more damage reports in. We got a damage report in 1 mile south of Marshalltown of significant tree and structural damage. So again, you start talking structure damage with winds, and I mean, that's some strong stuff. 90, 100 miles an hour, not out of the question. Straight line winds. Pushing stuff over and damaging stuff. So we're continuing to watch on the back edge. Again, I know it doesn't look like much of anything. It looks like just a little bit of rain, but the winds that are embedded along with that have been strong, and thankfully we're continuing to see those move out. But if you are headed east on I-80, we're talking about a pretty bad situation. The further east you get, that main core of winds just to the north of I-80, upwards towards 380 and into Cedar Rapids. I'm going to highlight some of these winds that we've got just to the east of 63 here. And you can see winds, especially once you start to get upwards towards Highway 30, we got winds around 64 miles an hour, east of there 78. And again, it just gets stronger from there as you head further to the east, around 80 miles per hour. So we'll go statewide here again. I know Curtis has highlighted it a couple times, but I want to hop back over to radar and look at some of what we've got developing here just over the metro and to the southwest of the metro. Again, you can see the area highlighted in pink. Still have that severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 2 p.m. And we'll zoom in a little bit here, and you can see these storms, still some stronger cores in these storms, capable of producing some pretty heavy rain. Winds with these, not really much of a threat, thankfully, but also thankfully bringing in that much needed rain. We'll put this in motion here, show you where they're moving to. You can see bulk of this motion is east-northeast now. So areas like Winterset, if you haven't picked up enough rain, you got more chances upwards towards Indianola and upwards towards Norwalk as well. And we head up towards the metro. I want to zoom in, continuing to see at least some showers fire up. And you can actually see some lightning included along with this. So not totally out of the woods for lightning either. And we head a little bit further to the east out near Prairie City, continuing to see some showers and thunderstorms, as well as down near Hartford. We've got another report in from Adel of a 70-mile-an-hour wind gust with limbs down and objects blown around. So again, bulk of that activity has continued to work its way eastward and really into the eastern portion of the state. We've got showers and thunderstorms that have continued to develop, but at this point, we are not talking about anything severe. So I'm going to, at this point, we'll wrap this up for now, bring you back to regularly scheduled programming. But as we continue to see things develop, of course, we will keep you posted here and online. Otherwise, stay safe and have yourself a great day.
All right, thank you, Jason. Well, you've been watching live extended coverage of the intense round of severe weather blowing through Iowa. What you're seeing right now, this looks like this is video taking in West Des Moines. Around 10:50, heavy rains and strong winds in that area. You can see there, you can see the movement of the trees right there and the amount of wind that is coming down. We're going to keep going to the next video that we have seen here in West Des Moines. Another look from West Des Moines before the rain actually began around 10:30. You can see the dark skies there forming in the distance as the storm began to move in. You can also hear the sirens as well. That was right around the time actually when when the skies became dark right there. That's when actually the sirens started coming in. Let's check in the next video that we have received. More dark skies and sirens. Of course, over in Clive, you can see the dark skies over there as well. This was sent in probably less than 30 to 45 minutes ago, but that rain, we are still monitoring that area. It hadn't started at this point. As we are still going through the amount of photos and videos that you are sending us, I'm going to toss it back to Jason, who has more updates on what he is tracking for you guys across the state. Jason, back to you.
Yeah, and I mean, thankfully, we're starting to see that core of winds make its way out. We still have the showers, and we still have a few thunderstorms out there. You go through central portions of the state, and as we've talked about, we're still seeing that moisture fill in, and we're still seeing storms fill in. So still a bit of a lightning threat with some of the storms that we've got through central and southwestern portions of the state. But again, the storms that are firing through central Iowa right now do not have a wind threat along with them. All of that right now is off to the east, and we're continuing to see that threat march its way eastward. But I can't stress enough, if you're headed east on I-80 past Grinnell, really a little bit further than Grinnell, that core of winds is still out there, and we have had many, many reports of cars that have been blown off the highway, semis that have been blown off the highway, non-high-profile vehicles that have been blown off the highway. So very strong winds continuing to the east. Again, to highlight some of those right along I-80 here, 65, I don't know why it keeps popping up 0 on me there. But we've got, again, we've had reports of winds upwards of 80 miles an hour out here. So even you start to trail backwards towards Grinnell, and we have got winds of around 60 miles an hour. So still some strong activity out there on the eastern portion of the viewing area. Again, you get past Marshalltown or so, and the winds aren't nearly as strong anymore. Still seeing some showers out there, but as far as winds are concerned, we've really started to see those die down. 37, 40 miles an hour as this line continues to work its way eastward. But again, thankfully, have picked up on a bit of rain out there. I'm going to zoom out a little bit further. And you can see off to the north even areas like Fort Dodge, upwards towards Algona, and eastward towards Mason City. I know a lot of people from Dodge that have been crying for rain for a while now, and thankfully you picked up a little bit of it there. But again, thankfully the main threat that we have continued to track has been pushing through the eastern portion of the state. Curtis, looks like you got more updates coming from over there.
Thanks for your coverage there, Jason. I ask, I receive. I could not get a picture of that semi, so somebody else got a picture of this, a livestock truck that was blown over by the winds. I think it's on Highway 169 there at the Cenex. So thank you for listening and sending that in. I was just curious as to what happened there. And then it's hard to see, but there was a stage here. This is the Farm Boys Garage. I think that's on the south side of town, and there was a stage here. The stage is gone. So the winds moved through strong enough to push that stage out. And downtown, obviously, still the rain out there. We're just going to stay with you a bit longer because of the wind damage, and we got folks cleaning up and folks whose power's being reconnected right now, and they're just joining back in, and they just want a quick update so they can proceed on their day. So Mid-American Energy is getting out and doing a great job of getting folks reconnected. So we got people that are just joining us. What was it, 50,000 people without power,
50,
Jason?
000, yeah.
So they're just rejoining us. So we just want to give them a kind of an update, make them feel comfortable, folks. I know we're covering up programming now, and most of this has moved away, but we got a lot of people that are just coming in, and we got folks cleaning up, so we just want to update them. A little bit of lightning now east of Indianola, south of Winterset, seeing some lightning at this time. The metro, not much lightning, but this little Adair County, Winterset, Madison County, and it's not significant, but this will push on in, so there could be a couple lone lightning strikes. Just want to mention that to folks who are cleaning up out there. And you could see this is where the winds are. Iowa City, the bigger winds have now cleared Ottumwa. I had reports of tree damage in Ottumwa, and Ottumwa wasn't even the core of the strongest winds. So it is going to be widespread. It already is widespread, but there's going to be more widespread tree damage from winds today that were anywhere from 65 to 105 miles an hour. And if you're watching me earlier, just if you got folks in Illinois, this is not ending. This is going to move all the way across eastern Iowa, maintain its strength with damaging winds. Look at how far out I'm just going to put a little marker on here for you folks. Look at how far out they're putting the severe thunderstorm warnings 69 miles in advance of the line to give folks enough heads up, because that's what kind of system this is. So if you have friends in eastern Iowa from, I would say, Jackson County, Clinton County, even down and through Rock Island, Illinois, and Muscatine, if you have friends say, hey, our guy here says you're going to get some wind damage today, give them plenty of time to prepare. And then you can see, I just wanted to show you from the metro, the storms are now a ways out. So a long way to go yet for this storm, and then we'll push on in. Rains, Mason City, Fort Dodge. And here's your heaviest rain, folks, and you can see it's a beautiful, beautiful rain event, but unfortunately there'll be flattened crops out there and all the damage. But this area in green, and I don't want to highlight them all for you along the way, but now 1 to 3 inches. This area in green along Highway 30. With some nice rains in central and southern Iowa, but the big rains were down to the south. And then the reports of the wind damage coming in. And I just talked to somebody down in Ottumwa, and I got some tree damage. So they hit 60, and I think some of the radar reports, another one, Fairfield, 60. And we told you down in southeastern Iowa the winds weren't going to be as strong down there. And then we have reports coming in. Let's see what this one is. This is probably that one down. Indianola report 58. but there's reports everywhere of bigger winds. Hubbard, 70-mile-per-hour winds, numerous trees down. So it's a widespread event all the way across the state. We're going to keep you updated here at KCCI 8. Our coverage is done for the, you going to need one more thing, Jason?
We got Todd still.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know we had Todd. I think he has an earpiece and I do not. So Jason, throw to Todd.
Yeah, so Todd is live on the west side of Des Moines. You can see they've got a little bit of rain going on there still. Todd, what are you seeing out there?
Hey, Jason and Curtis. Yeah, well, you guys were talking about this on our radar. Glenn Bierman and I, my photographer, were driving through it, and this is one of the things that we saw. We're on Shriver between Grand and Ingersoll, about 54th, and you can see this giant locust tree split in half when the storm blew through. It fell on a power line. It blew the transformer, and, of course, the whole neighborhood now is without power. But this is just one tiny fraction of the damage that we have seen from West Des Moines, where we started out today, about 35th and Valley West Drive, all the way here to the west side of Des Moines, where these giant trees, so many oak trees, have snapped in half and fallen in yards. Streets are blocked, driveways are blocked. I think we showed you earlier there was a mail truck that was hit by a giant oak tree, smashed the front end, broke the glass, injured the driver, broken glass in his lap. He's okay, and they just brought a tow truck down to take the postal truck out of the neighborhood. But every street that we have driven on has leaves, limbs, branches, entire trees that are down. You can just see it's just a green carpet of leaves every street, every sidewalk, every driveway where we've been today. So when you get winds, as Curtis and you mentioned, 70, 80, 90 miles an hour, they just tore through neighborhoods like there was nothing to it. So we haven't heard any reports of injuries, and that's good news, but lots and lots of damage in the area. So we'll be here this afternoon covering the cleanup here. Folks are up collecting branches, garbage cans that blew away, that sort of thing. So keep that in mind if you're driving in the area. A lot of roads are blocked, and it's difficult to get through many areas. So we'll throw it back to you, Jason and Curtis, and we'll have more coming up tonight.
Yeah, and just a little bit more rain that we've got in the metro. Otherwise, again, bulk of the threat that we have continued to watch has pushed to the east. So I'll recap that quick here before I throw back over to Tizia. But you can see the storms that we've got. Severe thunderstorm warnings, Cedar Rapids eastward. The one for Ottumwa has now been cleared as well. And you can see just that broken line of showers and thunderstorms continuing down to the southwestern portion of the state. So with that, Tizia, I'll throw it back to you.
All right, Jason, thank you. Well, you've been watching live extended coverage of an intense round of severe weather blowing through Iowa. We're going to show you some of the video right now. You can see on your screen right here from several areas that are damaged. Now, damage is being reported virtually everywhere. With major tree damage on the west side of Des Moines, the roof torn off the Des Moines Buccaneers Arena in Urbandale. You can see, we'll pull up that video, but trees down in dozens of towns. You can see and hear the sirens here over in Clive and see the dark skies there. Right now, Mid-American Energy reports more than 50,000 customers in the dark. In the metro alone, we have not heard yet just any reports of injuries, but we'll update you on that. But we do have a crews spread out across the metro in central Iowa right now. So stay with KCCI 8 News for continuing coverage throughout the afternoon, and also news at 5 and 6, and of course at kcci.com. We now return you to your regular programming.
Oh, because we're fighting a lot? Now we're trying to work it out. That's why I'm here today. I'm picking up my stuff to move in with her.
There's divorce papers.
Yes, we signed divorce papers, but we didn't file them.
Yes, you did.
What are you getting at?
You filed the divorce papers